What if the greatest investment you'll ever make isn't in your career, your home, or your success, but in the legacy you leave through your family? Every father leaves a legacy, yet too many men are carrying the weight of fatherhood alone. Through real stories, biblical wisdom, and honest conversations, the Dad2Dad Collective equips fathers to overcome life's challenges, strengthen their families, deepen their faith, and lead with purpose. Together, we're raising stronger men, building stronger families, and shaping the next generation. The Dad2Dad Collective, for fathers, from fathers, led by the Father.
Welcome to the Dad2Dad Collective, where we help fathers strengthen their families, deepen their faith, and lead with purpose. My name is Everett Gutierrez, and today you are in for a treat because we are starting our podcast episode series with a group of 6 fathers. So before we jump into it, I want to say this is a part 1 of 2 series. I'm going to introduce who I am and give these guys a chance to introduce who they are. So Everett Gutierrez, I've been in leadership training and development for about 18 years. I'm the father to Noah, married to Nora, coming up now on 8 years, and I really love speaking into the lives of dads. So let's just kick it off here with David.
My name is David, David Vang. I'm in the Villa Park area. I'm a naturopathic doctor, an acupuncturist, so I do a lot of holistic healing, oncology care, pain support, and chronic care. And so I have a 11-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son. So, yeah.
Thank you for being with us.
Yeah. Yes. My name is Eric Little. I am a nonprofit consultant and a small business coach. I have 3 children, a 16-year-old daughter, 2 boys. I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old going on 10. So thank you for the invitation, man. Happy to be here.
All right, my name is Julian Lopez. I'm so glad to be here. So honored to be here with you guys. I am a father of 6. I have 3 boys and 3 girls. I am also a grandfather of 4. My oldest son is going to be 30 years old this year, and my youngest daughter is 19 years old. It's just great to have a variety of ages in the kids, and then now having grandchildren. So it's exciting to start that chapter in our lives.
So you're not busy at all?
Yeah, I got a lot of free time.
Yeah.
spent with the kids. Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, it's great.
Thanks for being here, brother.
Thank you.
My name's Chris Mason, and I'm very honored to be with you guys. I work in human resources, and so have a real passion for people and culture and work settings. But in my personal life, I have 2 boys, age 17 and age 14, so a junior in high school and an 8th grader. It's good to be with you all.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
How are y'all doing? My name is Dexter Peterson. I'm a case manager for the New Life Centers, and I feel like we do a little bit of everything. I help people with finding jobs, housing. Sometimes we get people who are incarcerated, so when they get out, we try to pretty much help them find a job, or I don't know. I would say if it's someone in a situation where they need assistance, I'm there to guide them through it. I'm a father of 1. I have a 6-year-old, even though she acts like she's 16. I'm good. We're good with just 1 right now.
Emphasis on right now.
That's it, just 1.
Yeah.
Right now.
You do what you can do. That's what I
That's-
like. I can't do 6 either.
So I just want to kind of start us off with why, I brought you all together and just the vision behind the podcast. So obviously I've been in the leadership space, leadership world for over 15 years, corporate environment, academia, ministry. And what I've realized in my walk with other men is that men are looking for answers to some common struggles that specifically dads are going through. Whether it's how to make decisions for the future with the children that you have at whatever age they're at, what kind of legacy they want to leave behind, how are they showing up and impacting their families. So I'm really trying to create a podcast where we can talk about how we're leaving an impact for the legacy in the future. And how are we doing that through the lens of leadership? Because I think men are often, they're perceived not to always be vulnerable. And so I'm hoping that this will be a space where men can, and fathers specifically, can look at this podcast and say, wow, I relate to that person, or I see their struggle, or I can really see, where they're coming from. And that's something I can take away with me back to my family and as I lead my kids in the specific place and time that I'm in. So all of you represent different backgrounds, obviously, with work, different backgrounds and seasons of life with children, right? We got a grandfather, et cetera. But I really want to make sure that, you know, this is what the space is that we're creating for everybody who's viewing this today. So one thing I'll just kick us off with, and anyone can kind of jump in, is what would you say is a life verse that you stand by, and why is that your life verse? Anyone?
I'll talk about mine. Actually, just have my Bible open here. 1 Corinthians 16:13 calls us to act like men. That's a verse that I read a while back, and it really just struck me. It says, "Be on your guard, stand firm in the faith, be men of courage, be strong, do everything in love."
So you took my verse.
Is that your verse?
Yeah, that's my verse.
There we go.
Yeah, that's my verse.
You know, and I've heard so many different podcasts and so many different sermons, you know, when we talk about act like men. And I think the church itself, sometimes we don't talk about that. You know, we're geared more towards trying to tell everybody about the gospel, make everybody feel good. But the reality is, you know, we have to be watchful and mindful in every way. And I think the biggest part of this is do everything in love, because it's hard to do all these things and not seem like you don't have a heart. So having that at the end, do it with love, because you can do all of that with love. And so that's a verse that I've carried, and that's something that I really want my kids to understand, especially the boys.
Yeah, I love that perspective, and one of the reasons it's my life verse, I knew we got along for a reason, is because, you know, we're often told as men, right, we have to possess a certain masculine strength, and it's not always said to us to depict it in love, right, from that perspective. And so it's like when you're told to be strong or to be tough, what does that look like, and where does that come from? And as you reflect on the gospel and who Jesus was, as he was depicted as tough in certain scenarios, you see that he exemplifies that love in how he shows up with his disciples in certain cities and towns that he visited, and then even his sacrificial love at the very end when he died on the cross for us, right? So I'll just kind of jump in here. I think where I relate to that verse more so than ever is in my backstory is I watched my wife go through breast cancer, and I recognize, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, my wife had breast cancer while she was pregnant with our son. Oh, wow. So I have two lives that I'm considering as we're making decisions. And in some ways, it was very difficult in my faith walk, because I'm like, God, you just kind of hijacked this experience of like, yeah, we're excited, you know, we're going to set up the crib and gender reveal and all that stuff. And now it's like, I got to make sure my wife and son are alive at the end of the day with some of the things that doctors were kind of kicking our way. And I realized very quickly that I had to rise to this other kind of standard I didn't know I had within me as a man of God, where I had to love my wife through some of the most difficult challenges and difficult decisions, and strengthen that in those moments in that time was really being present with her, hearing her out, giving her a voice when doctors tried to limit her voice, and then still show up in a way where even after our son was born, I could support her as she was going through chemo and some of the other things. So strength, I think, is not always talked about from that lens, right? Because I think if I would have come in and just said, I'm just going to take over everything and I'm just going to do everything, because in nature, right, that's what we do as men. Right. I'm going to fix it. Yeah, we're often told, right, I just got to fix it. But my wife didn't need me to fix everything in that moment. She just needed me to walk by her side faithfully. And I would say that theme has shown up in other areas of my life. And so that's why I relate to that verse.
That's funny. My wife says the same thing. I mean, we've gotten into conversations about our kids, and ultimately we want to fix everything, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's truly how we're designed, is to just fix things. And so, I mean, she'll tell me something, I'm like really getting up. I'm going to go do this. And she's like, I don't need you to fix it. I need you to hear me. Mm-hmm. I need you to understand what I'm telling you. And I mean, it's gotten to the point where I just say to my wife, okay, then please let me know when you want me to act, right? But I need to learn to listen. And so that is, like I said, one verse that, like you said, it's act like men, but what does that really mean, right? Because we have to act like men, not only with our wives, right, in our relationships, but with our kids and even with us as fathers and friends. So I think that's strong scripture for me.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Others.
I think I'll just caveat. Mine is very related to what both you gentlemen were discussing. You'll see it in Luke 9:23, and it's echoed by Matthew in chapter 16, verse 24. So if any man would follow after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Whoever will save his life will lose it, but if you lose your life for my sake, you'll find it. And it's impactful because exactly what you were saying is, what does it mean to be a man? And, the invitation that Jesus gives is one that is birthed through suffering. And it's not suffering for the sake of suffering. It's suffering because at the end of suffering is where life can be found. And I think that's true as fathers and husbands and, people who want to be centered and center their family around their faith. His model was as a servant. You're talking about, a man who didn't own anything, but also, he was everything at the same time. And so how does it look to model after someone who didn't pride himself off his career or his money or his financial status or his political status, but it was more so, this is the example of what life looks like. And so for me, those scriptures, they're held dear and close to my heart.
Thank you, Eric.
Well, I can build on that one because my life verse is Mark 8:35, which is just the Mark version of that verse, right? So, and it's
Good point.
It's one of the phrases
Love that.
that Christ speaks that appears in all four Gospels. There aren't actually that many things that are in all four, but that one keeps coming up. And so, it's in Mark, it's if you'll save your life, you'll lose it, But if you lose your life for my sake and the sake of the gospel, you'll save it. And why is it my life verse? Because I'm not good at it. And I need a lifetime to work on that verse. So I was like, it would be my year verse if I could figure this out. So, but I do think it's a continual calling back to that idea that, it's like being strong isn't just being strong in yourself, right? And so it's finding something more solid than you, finding a rock that you can stand on, finding water that doesn't run dry. But I'm still learning it.
Well, vulnerability is a strength, and that's part of it, and that's something that's not talked about.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you have to be vulnerable. In order to be strong, you have to be vulnerable.
So you talked about like just reliance on that rock, right? And in a lot of church circles, I've heard people say, just trust God, right? Especially when you're talking about something you're going through. And I'm like, well, I am trusting God, but I'm still going through something, right? There's no one else I am saying I'm trusting, right? So what grounds you or anchors you to Christ when you're going through some challenges, as you guys kind of depict, those two scriptures? Just curious, like, how do you know you're really trusting God?
Oh man, yeah.
Hard one.
And the humility piece is a big part of that too, right? But I just think part of what's so helpful about suffering and loss is it is clarifying. You do realize there are, only a few things that really deeply matter. And I think there is a sort of a call out of the desperation of your own heart that can only be answered, I think, by your Savior, by God. So I think you're absolutely right that sometimes it's hard to sort of know exactly where you are in those moments. I do think you need brothers around you. They tend to speak into your life and see some things you don't see, and call you out when you need to be called out. But also, there's been moments when when I'm not always sure who I'm trusting in. I've had brothers that'll say, you're on the right path. You're trusted. So, I think we need each other is a big part of it.
It's good. So good. Did you want to jump in?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. My life verse, I'd say that I try to live up to is Ephesians 5:25. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. He gave his life, he gave his life to the church. And so what does that look like is, serving your wife. Yeah, I told my wife just the other day, it's you and the kids before me. You and your kids' needs before me. And so, that's their basic necessities, right? The food on the table, the cars, the home that we live in, and then on top of that, it's emotional needs and just trying to understand and goes back to kind of what you Julie, you're saying earlier. Just is my wife? Do you want to be heard? Do you want to be do you want me to try to fix it, or are you just trying to? Do you just want me to listen to you? And so. Trying to navigate that as well, and at the end of the day, our kids see how we love our wives, and so that's the foundation, I think, of society. It's a foundation of for family, of husband leading the wife, loving the wife the way God intended it to, and that builds. What does that do? That gives example for my son and daughter, how they're going to live, and how they're going to react in society or act in society. And so I think that could be very powerful. So something I try to do. Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And then Dex, yeah.
I agree. That was actually the verse I was going to use. It was that verse and the verse.
Not the only one.
In Romans, I don't remember what verse it is, but it's about living your life as a sacrifice for Jesus because it's your act of worship, spiritual worship. And I feel like when we think of worship, we think of praise, going to church and singing, which it is, but worship is lifestyle, it's living. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the verse you just said. We're called to love our wives and to be sacrificial. And I feel like that's one of the most, maybe not one of the most difficult things, but it's very difficult because it calls you to be humble, sacrificial, love her the way she needs to be loved. But it's because she sees Christ in you. You're the spiritual image of Christ, and she's the spiritual image of God's church. So I feel like just really living that out. Yeah, man, that's one of them. That is one of the most profound things because what I do for work is I sacrifice my life every single day to be with individuals who are in very tough places, but I love doing what I do, and they see Christ in me. They see someone who's willing to help. I'm not just trying to get a check. I'm not just trying to get through my day until my 8 hours are up. They know that I'm actually there with them, and at times I go home and I'm burnt out, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta cook dinner. Liv's coming in late. It's like sometimes that pours more into my job than it does at home. And God tells me, this is your ministry at home. Show that at home and then do it at work. So I think for me personally, man, being sacrificial is very key, but knowing what that means. It's not, coming home and kicking my feet up, seeing my wife cook and clean and be like, look, I did my job. I went to work. I'm paying a bit. Nah, that's not, it's that, but it's more to that. Right. How can I assist you in other areas? And I think my wife also working and her being an entrepreneur, it's my job to assist her and guide her through what she's doing and also support her, but not in a way where it's passive, where I'm not doing my job. So yeah, definitely, I that's a passage I definitely enjoy reading because it gets me back right where I'm actually able to focus on what I should be doing and not wasting my time.
I like what you said
about
being an example to the kids.
Yeah.
One of the this is actually my second marriage. I was married before, and one of the things that I am trying to do different in my life now because my children are grown is really giving them that example. So talking about being sacrificial and understanding how Jesus loves the church, right? And that's how we're supposed to love our wives. Yeah. That is part of as a father as well, to be able to set that as an example, right? Yeah. How are you treating mom?
Right.
When you're arguing, what do you do? And more importantly, because I'm sure that everybody that's been in a relationship, it's not perfect, right? There's arguments, there's discussions, differences of opinion.
Yeah.
I always
Welcome
talk
to marriage.
I always tell my kids, I said, the devil's in the problem, right? The
Yeah.
devil's in the argument, Jesus in the resolution. So how do you resolve that issue? Because we all have it. We're all going to not have a perfect marriage, a perfect life, but how do you resolve that? So, loving your wife the way that Jesus loves the church, so important. So much now that I have a few of my kids that have said to us, to my wife and I want to have in my marriage what you guys have. And by no means do my wife and I have a perfect marriage, but I think we're doing great. And I always used to say, in my second marriage, I'm not going to make the same mistakes that I made in my first marriage. The reality is I'm making all new ones.
Yeah.
and we will continue to make all new ones. But how do you resolve it? My resolution of the issues that I have, problems and differences of opinion, is a lot different now than it was before, and maturity has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. Well, I do want to, something I thought about it that I think is important to kind of address here, because we're talking to fathers. I don't want to disqualify fathers who also have different kinds of situations. Fathers who aren't married or divorced, single dads, widowed. There's just all kinds of scenarios for dads. So what would you all say to those fathers who can't exactly show that example, is maybe because they don't have their partner anymore involved? Is there, for whatever different reason, is there any advice or thoughts on that?
I mean, and I'd be curious, Julian, if you had any. In some ways, I'm going to ask for advice for me. So I'm divorced. I was married.
May I have you speaking to the mic there,
I
Chris?
was married
Yeah.
21 years, and then I divorced. So and I'm not married now. So I'm going through some of that thought myself. How do you model this, et cetera? One thing that's sort of interesting about this moment in time, and I've talked to a lot of folks. I keep collecting father figures for myself, who have gone kind of ahead of me on this. I collect brothers as much as I can, and there's the one kind of clarifying moment for me now is my kids are number one. So I don't know if it's always the same kind of thought when you then get married again. You really do have to balance your relationship with your wife and then your relationship with your kids. There's something very clear right now. Kids are number one, and how do I love into those kids and really support them every day? I share custody, so what's helpful about that is it's very clear that when I have them, I can pour into them. When I don't have them, I'm trying to see them as much as I can. I call them, et cetera. And so it's that's actually in some ways a blessing at this moment, right? So I'll take advice from dads as you've kind of gone back into that experience.
Well,
again.
I was a single father for a while, so it's not like I literally jumped into another relationship right away. But when I did, one of the things that I found is that I lost my kids for a little while. As a single father, I think that there's only two things you want to do when you've just walked away from a marriage, and now you're a single dad and you've got 3-4 kids. What do you do? Because our first reaction is, I want to take care of myself, right? I want to be out there. I'm a person that doesn't like to be alone, and so I jumped into other relationships, and it's like it took me a while to really understand that I needed to be a father. So to your point, fatherhood is the number one thing. And the reality is that, when God will put people in your life, right, to help you and to guide you. And, one of the things that I found out is, I could be in many different relationships in between, right, after I got divorced. And, I've got my kids and, I see them every other weekend. So during the week I could do this. And then the reality is I missed a lot. I missed a lot having that thought. So if you're already, my kids are number one, man, that is awesome. The other part to that for those single fathers is you can't feel guilty to try to do something for yourself, right? Like you said, there's got to be a balance. And ultimately, if there's somebody out there for you, that other person, one of the number one things you need to look at now as a single father, if you've got kids, doesn't matter what age, is the other person that you're with, are they willing to share that responsibility with you? I was very fortunate to find a woman in my life that loves my children just as much as I do, and I love her children just as much as I love mine, and there is no division line. So even that, is hard. But the one thing I found was God brought that to me without me asking for it. It was when I stopped looking, when I started doing what God I felt wanted me to do after so many years of me making mistakes with my kids, is you got to refocus on your kids. And once you refocus on your kids, everything will come in line, because you know what? God send me somebody that will help me take care of my kids without me looking for that person, if that makes any sense. And I know there's a lot of fathers out there that are single right now, and they've, had a, whether they were never married, or, they were married and now divorced, starting life over. It is very confusing. But ultimately, when we become fathers, that day our kids are born, that is a day that we have got to stop making decisions only for ourselves. And a lot of times, I made that mistake, is I didn't. I felt like I needed something for myself too. And it wasn't until God changed my perspective and, pretty much said, you need to refocus on what's important. And then if you do that, everything else will fall in line. And it has.
Really quickly, can I
Yeah,
just
go ahead,
add
yeah.
in? I'd say yes. You guys had also mentioned about the brotherhood that's needed in the community. I think that's extremely important. I have siblings or friends who are divorced, and it's lonely. It's lonely, and so if they don't have a community or friendships or bonds close by it, it's tough. And so my encouragement would be get plugged into a community of friends or
alone.
family
Yeah,
or
that's important.
church, brotherhoods, because the kids still need a manly figure. They still need a motherly figure, and so that can come through different forms of aunts or church, mothers and fathers, or uncles and aunts. And so that's and then again, just going back to what you said, just going stop seeking to do your own thing, but now serve the Lord, serve your kids, and God will bring the missing piece back to you.
I love that perspective, because I think what it does is it grounds what we're doing here, right? I'm doing this first episode with 5 of you.
Yeah.
It's to reemphasize this point of brotherhood being a necessity, so that men aren't doing life on life alone, because we already, let's be honest, we already feel alone in many different circumstances. Sometimes we feel alone at work. Sometimes if we're running our own business, we feel alone there. Sometimes when we're making decisions with our families, we feel alone. Like, do other people relate to us? Are other people going through what I'm going through in my marriage or a relationship? Or do they relate to what I'm dealing with my child, and those kinds of things? So I think it's so important to your point is community is essential, especially as you're trying to navigate different storms of life that come at you, right? Now, let me kind of ask this other question. This might be a little bit more lighthearted. What has fatherhood revealed about you that you didn't expect? Anyone want to take that on? As he smiles.
So, growing up in a black home or black family, culturally, there's a lot of taboo things, right? I'm just going to be straight up with you. So, I have 3 sisters. I have no brothers. So, when it came to having to fight, make sure I protect my sisters, and, my dad, gave me that responsibility when he's not around. It was always this culture of like, hey, don't bring no boy home, or don't talk about this or that. And so when I had my daughter, all these things are like, I got to be super protective and this, that, and the other. And as I started to formulate our relationship in her formative years, I found that there's nothing that she could probably do to make me that upset. And then we start having honest conversations. I mean, a little bit too honest, like all the way honest, where, as little girls grow up, things happen. So, but we had to have these conversations. And, one of the things I found was that, she was very open with me, because I created a safe space for her not to, shut down conversation because she's starting to like boys, or she's starting to, be a young lady. And what I learned was that as long as she feels safe with her father, she can bring anything to me and don't feel the need to hide it. I did not think I would be as open as to having a conversation on how cute boys are with my daughter. So now it's like, that's just a no-go automatic thing when I was coming up. But now it's like, oh, you like him? Why you like him? But what it does is she doesn't have to sneak around. So if she comes, like whatever young man you meet, the only way I would be upset is if you lie to me or you try to hide him from me. I want to meet the young man. So that way, what I'm teaching you, what I'm teaching my boys, I can make him and equip him to say, hey, if you want to date my daughter, if you want, any chance, then these are the things that I'm teaching them. Will you help me cultivate this environment with my daughter? And so not only are you doing that, you're planting a seed into that young man, which he probably needs to hear as well. So I did not know I would be that open to it until she turned 16. So now
You ever say he's not cute enough for you? You don't.
No, I really try to make her turn red. I'm like, why are you talking to him so long? So now I'm like, it's more of banter than anything now. But I do try to set the standard. Hey, if he's not willing to go through the fire, which is a conversation, me taking him out alone, me, spending time with that young man, then he's probably not really after you, So anyway, I didn't know I would be that open to the idea, and it's a surprise now that I'm going through it.
Yeah. And so it's funny you say that because I feel like that would be the perfect place to be because I have a 6-year-old daughter and I want our relationship to be like that where she could feel comfortable. And I feel like it could be weird, like, having specific convos on, like what you like to wear, what kind of dress you want to wear, stuff like that. But I think being in a place where she feels comfortable enough to even bring that to you, that's what I want. And I've noticed, and like I said, my daughter's 6, so she's still young. She has a crush on this kid at her school. But my wife told me, and when my wife told me, my daughter was in the background saying, "No, mommy, don't say anything." And I'm like, "No, it's okay." So it's like, I don't know if that's because I come off too aggressive with her or not. So for me, I'm trying to find that balance where she knows she could come to me and have these convos because I know she's gonna reach an age where it's like, hey, this is where it's at right now, and I want her to feel comfortable to be able to bring those things to me because I realize about myself, Everett, I'm a strict dad, kind of. Like I'm more of a strict dad, and it's funny because I grew up like no rules in the house. I didn't grow up in the faith. I could do whatever I want. I have 2 brothers and a half sister. We did whatever we wanted. My parents was cool with us doing anything, watching any kind of TV show. Like we just didn't have any type of restriction. I mean, to a certain extent, but that's why I'm strict with my daughter because I think it's because she's a daughter, and there's so many things you need to look out for when you're raising a young girl, and I'm a male and a black male. So for me, it's like I can't mess up. I feel like I can't mess up. I don't want to mess up. So what you just said is so key to me because I want to be able to be that protector, but also the one that she can come to in times like that. If she's going to a party when she's 17, 18, and she don't have anyone to call, I want her to be able to call me and know that I'll pick her up. And if we got to handle a situation in the party, I'm gonna be able to pull up.
I love that. I'll just add real quick to the dating and I have an 11-year-old daughter and so I have to keep reinforcing her about what dating is, and what is dating, and so dating is to find someone to be married to, and so I say, Pearl, you only date when you're ready to marry, and so that's our rule. You date when you're ready for marriage, and so
you set a guideline.
That's the guideline,
Precedent,
and so no boyfriends until she's ready to marry. And so that's how we're gonna set it up.
So David, has fatherhood revealed anything to you that maybe you weren't aware of?
Yeah, patience. Growing up, I'm the most patient kid. Like nothing gets to me. Like honestly, it doesn't. And so, but having kids tests my patience big time. And so I really thought I would just be a easy breeze. But it's challenging. Just challenging, and they push your buttons. And so learning how to control your patience and just kind of. Have to navigate that, and so understanding that I do have a limit to my patience, and then understanding how to navigate that, especially with my son. He's 6 years old and he's a fireball, and he will push my buttons. You know, if I don't, you know, put boundaries in place. So yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing. I'm reflecting on my son.
Yeah.
Noah's 4, and one of the things I was thinking about is like how much he reminds me of me.
Yeah.
Which is scary,
Mm-hmm.
especially when like he tests certain limits with his mother, and I'm like that was me. I tested my parents, and I'm seeing he's a fireball of energy, but it also tells me that I have to really be careful about how I show up for my son, because I think my parents, they did the best they could with the information they had, right? So they raised me based on that information and those experiences that kind of informed how they showed up in my life. And so now I'm like, okay, I can redo some of those things with my son that I didn't necessarily value or that were rough, and try to do a different approach, right? Just show up for my son a little differently. And I think for me, I never thought, just being honest with you, I hear a lot of dads saying they're close to their daughters. I never thought I'd be so close to my son. I never thought I'd be thinking about my son all the time. I don't know if you guys relate to that, but it's like he's on my mind all the time. I bet he would like this, or wow, why don't we try this next activity or this sport, or oh, when he gets to this age, we're going to talk about this. And so I'm like, man, how many times am I thinking about my son throughout the day? And does he even know that I think about him that much, or that I'm praying with him when I'm not even there, right? And so I think that's something to be said about how much precedence they can take in your life, right? And how valuable it is to honestly just really be cautious and aware of how you're showing up with your family, because we're not always thinking about that. So when we show up, they don't know about your rough day at work or a hard conversation you have. They just see you, and at least at my age, I know it changes when they get older, but at his age, it's like, Papi, pick me up, let's have fun, let's play, right? So if I show up with whatever happened before, let's say if I had a bad day or something happened, that can shift the energy of my home. So I have to be very intentional about considering how I show up with him. So that was kind of something I took away. I don't know if you guys wanted to add.
Go ahead. Well, what I was going to add was just, parenting does put a mirror in front of you, unlike
Isn't that
anything
the
else,
truth?
right? So
Yeah.
certainly your romantic relationships, your partner, your spouse, also shine a mirror, right? But there's something about the kids, and I think part of it's because you see some of yourself in them, you see some of your partner in them. They reveal some things, and particularly where they maybe set you off and trigger you a little bit is where you maybe see the most of yourself, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I say, to parent is also to know the deepest of guilt too, because you don't show up always the way you want to. So you got to give yourself a lot of grace. Try your patience in a certain way. Often it's the parts of you in them that try your patience. But I mean, man, there's nothing like that as a way to see a little bit more of yourself and continue to grow. I do think how you show up matters a ton. And this is I'm stealing this from John Eldridge, but he asks, how do you remember your father? Like when you picture your dad in your head, in your mind's eye, what's he doing? And mine's watching TV. He's a so-so dad. But I finally had the courage to ask my kids, like, well, how do you picture me? And it's a little bit of a scary thought, It's like, and I'm sure it'll evolve over time. One of them though did say, I picture you walking alongside me. Yeah, that's how I picture you. You're like walking on. I was like, oh, geez, let's do more of that. But I think as I continue to kind of grow with them, that's one of the questions I keep asking myself. How will they picture me? How am I showing up? What am I doing when they imagine their father? Because I tell you, there are other times when it's just probably me losing my patience.
Thanks for listening. If today's episode added value to your fatherhood journey, remember, strong fathers don't happen by accident. Keep investing in what matters most. Head over to Dad2Dad Collective.com or sign up here for future episodes and become part of the brotherhood. We'll see you next time.